And this topic is a really important topic, and we should begin with the words of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because you might read this topic, I have to see, what was it called again? It says, investing in your faith, building faith in everyday life. Now, I connect this very strongly to the idea of love. And it has to be connected to the idea of love. Because the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in the hadith, إِنَّ أَحَبَّ الْأَعْمَالِ إِلَى اللَّهِ أَدْوَمُهَا وَإِنْ قَلَّ. The most beloved actions to Allah are the ones that are the most consistent, even if they are small. Even if they are small. And we're talking small. One subhanallah every day is better than 1,000,000 subhanallahs on one day. Right? It means that you not just thought about Allah one time, you thought about Him so many different times. And it reflects a heart that is truly in love with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you think about investing in your faith and making your day look like, there it is. Jazakallah khairan. I should move out of the way a little bit. Yeah. Is my head in the way? My big head? Okay, mashallah. Jazakallah khairan. I think, is that good, everyone? Okay, alhamdulillah. But we want to connect it to this idea of love. I want to be someone who loves Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. And I do that through consistent action. Through consistent action. The other hadith from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is actually a hadith Qudsi. And we all know this hadith. Maybe not all of us, but most of us have probably heard it. Ground through the fulfillment of the obligations. And the chief of this is what? The obligation of knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger. Not just to say, I testify that there is no one worthy of worship than Allah and Muhammad His Messenger, but to know it as a matter of fact. Your iman. How do you invest in your iman? Knowledge. And who here is in 11th grade, 12th grade, or university, or in graduate school? Raise your hand. One person. I asked them for the youth sessions, but it's okay. I'm happy to deal with all the old folk here like myself. Okay. Raise your hands again. 11th grade, 12th grade, university. Okay. You guys have a special opportunity. Sorry, everyone else, you don't get the opportunity. If you guys scan this code on the screen, you get a free course that normally costs hundreds of dollars, $400 to be precise. You get it for free. This course is going to help you have the knowledge of Iman. That you know, not just believe, you know Allah exists. And you know Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the Messenger of Allah. There's no need to take a leap of faith. Islam is not a religion that says take a leap of faith. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to believe ala basira, upon insight, upon knowledge. So those of you, you can go ahead and scan this. If you have a child who's in that age range, go ahead and scan it, send it to them as well. Have them sign up. Investing in your knowledge of Allah and the Prophet Muhammad. You can only do that by seeking knowledge from scholars. You can't get it from TikTok. Right? What's TikTok good for? Iman boosts, right? And TikTok is nice. They have a little music in the back, right? And they used to have, in my day, they used to have angels in the back. You guys know that one? Right? Had the little music in the back, and the sheikh's like crying or something, and he says something that, you know, makes you feel good in the moment, makes you feel closer to Allah, until the next video comes on, and it's something about like, you know, dunya, and then you forget about it, right? So TikTok is good for these momentary boosts, but if you want something really strong, you have to seek knowledge. And this course is a way to seek knowledge. Anyone can access this course, but it costs money, except for the ones that I mentioned. Right? 11th graders, 12th graders. I have a booth, you guys can come and meet me there. This is number one. Number one. And notice a lot of you thought, what do you guys think I was going to say? Like the first obligation to focus on, what do you think I was going to say? You thought I was going to say, salah. Right? But the salah, if you're not a believer, right? Alhamdulillah, all of us are believers. But if someone's not a believer, they're a kafir, and they go and they pray, are they rewarded for their prayer? There's no reward for the prayer. They're just getting a good stretch, right? When they go down to the ruku', they get a nice little stretch for their hamstrings. That's it. There's no reward for it because you're not rewarded for the movements. You're rewarded for your iman and then your submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what you're rewarded for. So number one, how do I invest in my day? I have to know Allah and know the Prophet Muhammad are real and true. Then number two, salah. Right? Number two is salah. I walked into a coffee shop. I go there all the time. I work remotely, so I go to the same coffee shop. I try to do da'wah whenever opportunities come up. I don't bring any opportunity. But I had my masbaha, right? And I walk in with my masbaha. This lady said, oh, those are so nice. Prayer beads, right? Rosaries. I said, yeah. She's like, do you do your prayers on them? I say, kind of. Like, these are extra. My main prayer is 5 times a day. You might have seen people, they bow, they put their hands on the ground. She's like, yeah, I've seen that. And I said to her, because this is what my teachers taught me, I said, you know, I love it. It's 5 times a day, I get to check out all my stress and all my anxiety and direct myself towards my ultimate concern, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's so relaxing. It's so, I couldn't get through my day without it. And she's a Christian. She's like, I wish I could pray 5 times a day. Right? That sounds amazing. And in my head, I'm like, you can't, just because. But that's the way we should look at our salah as well. Salah is not a burden. Salah is relief. Salah is release. Salah is intimacy with our Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so this is the first habit to build, but you have to think about it the right way. You have to think about it the right way. You have to think, my Lord loves me so much, He made me a Muslim. And my Lord loves me so much that He made a specific time for me to meet Him. And He's waiting for me right now. And I want to go and show Him that I'm appreciative of this opportunity. I'm appreciative of this life He gave me. I'm appreciative. When Salah is viewed this way, it doesn't become difficult. It doesn't become burdensome. You begin to want to go to the Salah. When Aisha described the Prophet Muhammad, they said when he was, they said, how was the Prophet when he was home? She said he was like any man. He was with his family. And he was in the service of his family. And he would, you know, when his clothes would rip, he would patch it up. And when his sandal strap would break, he would fix it. And he would milk his own animal. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But when the time for prayer came, he went to the prayer. No one to pray. Because that was his life. Salah is our life. Everything else is the interruption. Salah is life. So that's the way that if we look at it this way, wallahi, salah becomes easy. And if someone's still working on their 5 salahs, that's the only thing they should be focusing on, right? If they've done their knowledge of Iman, just focus on your salah. You build that first block. This is the pillar of the religion. Then what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say after that? He says, my servant, after they fulfill their obligations towards me, they keep doing voluntary extra actions until I love them. حتى أحبه. Until I love this person. And I become the eye by which they see. How many of you guys have heard this hadith? Just raise your hand. I become the eye by which they see, and the ear by which they hear, and the hand by which they strike, and the foot by which they walk. Look at the words Allah is using here. He's trying to express the closeness that occurs between the servant and their Lord at this station. It's not literal. Allah doesn't become my eye, right? You don't believe that. That's not what Allah's saying. He's saying, I'm so close to you, it's as if. And you're so obedient to me that your eye only looks upon that which I have allowed you to look upon. And your ear only hears that which I am pleased for you to hear. And your hand only does that which I have permitted for you and obligated for you. And you only use your feet to go to places in which my pleasure resides. That there's complete correspondence between what Allah wants for you and what you have done. What a lofty station. But how do we get there? Don't think, I'm inspired now. I haven't heard this hadith before. Tonight, I'm going to become this person. No. You do it in the way the Prophet taught. You do it by consistent actions, even if they are small. But you keep your eye on the prize. You keep your eye on the prize. My goal is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nothing else. And that's why I'm saying subhanallah 10 times before I go to sleep every night. That's my new habit. So let's make it about love. Let's make it about love. I like to start with this because any other practical advice that I give you will not have a bigger impact than what I just told you. These attitude changes, these perspectives, Iman itself, how we look at the world, how we look at Salah, how we look at our relationship to Allah, this is way more important than these practical steps that I'm going to give you as well. You know, I had a sister, she came to me once, and she said, I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I have a sin and I can't kick it. What can I do? And I asked the same question to my teacher once, and he said, how long have you been going through this? It's a long time. I don't even know how long. Can't kick this particular mistake, whether it's backbiting or not, whatever it is. And he said, well, maybe, do you feel sometimes that you are losing hope? Like you think that it's been going on for so long that you'll never actually be able to get over it? Yeah, that happens to me sometimes. I think that. Or that you've tried to pray so many times in the past and it never works. You tried to do something, whatever, just feel like it's not working. He said, you have to call upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say, Ya Allah, I know for a fact that you can change this. And I am helpless. Look at all the things I've done. I can't do it, Ya Allah. And you express your helplessness and your neediness before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You say, Ya Allah, only you can open the door for me. And the sister, when I mentioned this to her, she told me a month later, she says, Wallahi, I hope Allah gives me consistency, but since you said that, I haven't done it. And I just keep calling upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I feel myself filling with strength as I lay my helplessness before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the path in Islam is not a bunch of practical tips. The more practical tips that I put in, I'm going to get closer to Allah. That's part of it. But it's mainly the way that you approach it. It's mainly the way that you look at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I look at Allah the way my teachers taught me, who were taught by their teachers, who were taught by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. When the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Allah said, أَنَا عِنْدَ ظَنِّ عَبْدِي, I am in the opinion of my servant. If you view Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala
whose mercy for you is unimaginable, whose plan for you is perfect and pristine, who is guiding you to Jannah step by step by step, who has everything that you need planned out if you just stay the course. And that He wants you to succeed, and He wants you to come to Jannah, and He wants to reward you subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He wants to forgive you. And you think of it like this, everything changes. But how many of us cannot get past our own sins and our own weakness and our own mistakes, and all we see is our mistakes, and we don't see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we should never lose hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because we don't have hope in ourselves. I'm telling you, don't have any hope in yourself, in the sense that you can't do it on your own. But you have hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it's a strong hope. It's a strong hope. Allah is going to get me where I need to get. So these are the things that I want to talk about first, inshallah ta'ala. Next, say that, alhamdulillah, maybe I've been able to, have the basics in my deen down. Salah, and I have it consistent. How can I start to build other habits that are investing in my iman on a daily basis? The best advice is look at what the Prophet ﷺ did. What did the Prophet ﷺ do after the prayer? Did he say, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Alright guys, see you. He remained seated. And he said more than Astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. Allahumma anta as-salam wa minka as-salam, tabarakta wa ta'aliti ya dhal jalali wal ikram. Almost as if the Prophet ﷺ is saying to Allah, Ya Allah, I enjoyed the prayer so much, I don't want to leave right away. I want a little bit more. I want to sit. Say Ayatul Kursi and these different adhkar. If you're looking for more good deeds that will increase your iman, strengthen you, look at these du'as the Prophet used to say after each prayer. And you're already praying, right? So say you're already praying, it's easier to add a habit to another habit than to do something separate. There's a book, really good book, that we should all read called Atomic Habits. Who here knows this book? Raise your hand. So more people raise their hand for Atomic Habits than the hadith. Is that funny? Alhamdulillah, now you can all raise your hands for the hadith. But good, it's a really good book. And he mentions this, that if, like I had a friend, he's like, I wanted to work out more, but he's like, I can't go to the gym. So what did he start doing? He does 10 push-ups after every salah. He's already praying, right? So he's like, it's easy, I can just do my dhikr, and then after that he does 10 push-ups. 50 push-ups a day. And I can tell him, I look at him like, oh, I can see. Have you gone to the gym? He's like, no, just 10 push-ups after salah. So that's a wisdom. So the Prophet ﷺ did it right after the salah. And then before the salah, there's things you did too, right? When the adhan was made, between the adhan and the prayer, the iqamah, making dua in that time is guaranteed acceptance. So again, look at these habits, the Islamic habits that you already have established in your life, and see, is there something I can add before or after that's from the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and you almost always find something. Almost always find something. Like he was doing something before and after. Now, and it can be small. Make it real small. Make it really, really small. He made an app. James Clear, the guy who came up with Atomic Habits, he made an app called Atoms. I'm using it right now. It's really good. And in the app, it allows you to work on 6 habits at a time, maximum. Now the reason he says you can only do 6, right, is obvious, because if you're working on too much at the same time, you won't get anything done. You try to change everything at once, nothing's going to happen. When you do one thing at a time, or 2 things, 6 is even kind of hard. But you just do 1 or 2 things at a time and stick to it, you'll get really far. You'll get really, really, really far with that. And what he does with the habits is he says that there are 2 things that strong habits have. Number 1, you attach it to a particular time. So instead of saying, I'm going to take a walk every day, you say, I'm going to take a walk every day at 4 p.m. Or every day after Asr prayer, I'm gonna go and take a walk. You put it to a particular time. That's number one. And the second thing he said was to attach it to the kind of person that you want to become through the habit. So connect it to the kind of person you want to be. So if you're going to take a walk, you say, I want to be a healthy person. And so every time you're going to do it, you remind yourself that's why I'm doing it. Right? Same thing with our religious habits. Right? Why am I praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Because I want to be a dutiful servant. I want to be a loving servant. Why am I reading the Quran? Because I want to be a good listener to the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why am I going to go pray at the masjid? Because I want to show Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I'm truthful in following through. I don't just talk about doing the right thing, I actually go to the masjid and I pray there with everyone else, instead of just talking about praying, for example. You connect it to the virtue that's going to help you become. It's really, really good. So, he's not Muslim, I like it. A lot of things in there are very helpful, and kind of correspond to the things that we find in the Sunnah of the Prophet. So these are some of the things that we can do, inshallah, is to look at the habits you already have and start building around it slowly. Indeed, the most beloved actions to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the most consistent, even if they are small. Right? So, how much time do we have, my sister? 20 minutes? 20 minutes? Okay. Let me make sure I get all my notes in. Yeah. So that is a little bit, I think now that we have 20 minutes, because this can become a very practical discussion, let's open it up to Q&A discussion. And I've said enough, inshallah. Inshallah, this is sufficient. And bismillah, let's hear from everyone else. Barakallahu feekum.
Is there anyone that has any questions?
Yes, sir. I think it's common that if you're constantly doing the same habit, at times it can feel robotic. And I'm trying to figure out what are ways that people can use to try to, obviously, there's the ideal where you want to be at, like what you're saying, that you want to, why you're doing it. What are some ways that you've heard of that maybe help someone build up to that, at that goal? So that they can, they can feel, if you're saying you're addicted and stuff like that.
Yeah. I'll give you an example of prayer. So prayer can become very robotic, right? And you're just kind of like, I always like the story of, the story of, they were praying at the masjid, and the imam, and they prayed 3 rak'ahs, and said, Assalamu alaikum, and it's a 4 rak'ah prayer. And they started arguing after, did you pray 3, no, I prayed 4, and they were going back and forth. And some guy raised his hand and said, no, you only prayed 3. I know it for a fact. I said, how do you know? He said, I have 4 businesses, and in each rak'ah, I go through the accounts of the day for each business, right? And I only got through the 3rd one, I didn't get to my 4th business. So I know we didn't do the 4th rak'ah, right? So, in the prayer, a really, really good way that my teachers taught me is when you're in your sujood, you can, what you should do in each sajda, in each new prayer, bring a different blessing to your heart that you're grateful for. Right? And what I found for this is that, one, it's going to increase you in your gratitude, which increases you in your presence and your connection to your heart and your love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You start recognizing like, whoa, there's so much that I can think of. You think, sometimes when we think about it for 5 minutes, we're like 25. In reality, there's countless blessings of Allah. So I found it to be really beneficial, because I had the same question. So in each, you can either say, this salah, I'm just going to think about the blessing of my family. And that's what I'm going to focus on. In the next salah, I'm going to think about the blessing of health. And in the next salah, the blessing of the Quran. Something different each time. And this will, inshallah, make every prayer seem a little bit different and freshen up, and also bring you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I would say similarly with everything else, all the other habits that we have, it's really about becoming more present. And the best way to become more present is gratitude. So just trying to find in each thing that I'm doing, how should I be grateful right now? Right? How should I be grateful? and that'll usually solve the problem. Alhamdulillah, wallahu a'lam. Allah knows best.
Is there anyone else who would like to give a question?
Well, the title of the topic today is like investing in your faith. Many times when I listen or hear somebody about investing, most of the time result is not guaranteed and involves some risk. Is there anything in that in here? Thank you.
Any risk?
Yes.
That's a beautiful question. Because I guess that's all it has. There's no risk, right? SubhanAllah. You risk one thing. Losing the dunya. Oh my God, right? This pile of dust, right? This is a pile of dust. That's what dunya is, right? So you might risk, but even then, right? Not necessarily. Allah still gives you everything that you need. He's Al-Razzaq, He's the provider of all your needs. So it's a beautiful question because the answer is no, there's no risk. There's no risk. If we consider the word risk to mean that I'm risking something of value. Maybe I don't go to the bar like my Muslim friends, or I don't go to parties, or I don't, what else do people do? So I'm such a ball. Whatever. All the haram stuff. Like, maybe I don't do those things, but my life is better as a result. So what am I really losing? And then we think about, subhanAllah, this idea of investment, right? It's in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, مَنْ يُقْرِضُ اللَّهَ قَرْضًا حَسَنًا فَيُضَاعِفَهُ لَهُ. Right? So it's like, who's going to give Allah a good loan? You go and what do you give to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Ya Allah, here's the 100,000 prayers across my life. I don't know if that's possible, whatever. 100,000 fourth prayers you give to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do with that? Multiplies it over and over and over again. The reward of it is beyond just 100,000. Beyond what you put in, without any interest in that, right? And then you get on the day of judgment and you say, oh, what is this? This is the reward for yourself. To the extent, by the way, it's mentioned in one of the books of the fuqaha, the scholars as well, that there will be women that get to the day of judgment, women specifically, and they will see mountains of good deeds. Say, Ya Allah, I don't recognize this. What is this from? Say, these are for all the times you didn't pray when I told you not to pray during your monthly cycle. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told women, don't pray at this time, and you know what? They didn't pray, and what happens? Allah rewards them for not praying. For not praying. Because you're not rewarded for praying or not praying. You're rewarded for obeying Allah's command. And if Allah commanded you not to pray, and you don't pray, you get rewarded for it. This is the mercy of Allah. So this small little action that we do gets multiplied. And there are things that we do that maybe we're not even aware of that Allah is going to reward us for. SubhanAllah, like things like that. So there's no risk. Absolutely no risk. It's a beautiful question and may Allah reward you.
If there are any more questions, I do have a question myself.
There is a really good question.
This one.
Which one of them?
We got 1, 2, 3.
All right.
Oh, okay.
Where is first?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillah. First of all, thank you for the knowledge for us for today. And I do have a question regarding your statement earlier about how to increase the iman, and one of them is the knowledge. My question is about knowledge. Sometimes we do understand whatever we receive when we learn something, but the problem, the problem is how to implement it in our daily life, especially regarding hablum minanas. Because what I believe, hablum minallah is kind of personal, private, and it's kind of like more easier because no one surrounding us. But hablum minanas always become a problem. Hablum minanas within our social life, something like that. So sometimes we know already we should not do this, we should not do that, something like that, but we still do it the same thing. But we try to fix it, but how? Maybe you can give us the tips.
Yeah. So you're saying that like the social environment kind of
Yes.
pushes you away.
Yes. Sometimes they are stronger than.
Yeah. So
That's all.
yeah, that's a wonderful question. This is really real, right? And like
Yeah.
I hope everyone knows like here, you know, I'm just your brother. Like I'm not a chef or anything like that. Just I think I'm local. That's why they brought me. You know, and I'm just here to enjoy the food and the time of all of you. So my advice is not to be written in gold or anything like that. But it's a very real question because honestly, like I still go through this all the time. It's, you know, maybe you're working towards habits and things are going well, but then a certain social engagement comes up and maybe it throws off your habits. Maybe it throws off your rhythm. And Allah Ta'ala, it seems like what we have to do is we have to figure out how can I make sure that I guard the integrity of my day. One thing that the Prophet told us, for example, is after Isha to do what? Go to sleep. Sometimes our social engagements, they go late into the night. Right? Sometimes we're doing good stuff. We're singing songs about the Prophet, you know, late into the night. But then you miss Fajr. So in guarding the integrity of our days, when it's time to go to sleep, we go to sleep, so that we can make it on time, and so we can have a level of consistency. So anytime there's a social engagement that comes up, we have to ask ourselves, is this going to throw me off? Right? Is this going to throw me off? And sometimes the answer is, to be honest, yes. Sometimes it's like, you know, maybe this thing is going to put me back for 2-3 days before I get back into my good habits. Right? So we have to be honest about this. And it's something that all of us have to make a decision in the moment. But there are times where it's very clear that this social engagement is not going to do it. You know, for me, it's like if it's from before Maghrib time, a social engagement's not going to cause me to lose my habits, personally. But if it's at 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., for me, I'm like, this is going to cause me an issue. I'm going to sleep late, right? And I'm not going to get enough sleep, and I'm probably going to wake up later, or if I wake up, I'll be tired, and I can't do what I want to do. So I know that about myself. Right? So I know I still want to be social, I still want to have friends, but I try to do it at certain times, and I try to guard my mornings and my nights. Allah Ta'ala. This is the way I would respond to the question, is that, you know, we do have to kind of guard it. Or we just say to ourselves, I'm going to go. Someone invites you to dinner at 6:30 p.m., 7 p.m. You want to go to sleep at 9 or 9:30. You go! But you just leave early, you know? And you make sure that you set these boundaries and things like that. I'm not sure if this answers your question. Does it answer your question? It does? That's the way I try to connect it to my own life and how I look at it. You know, and I think, you know, we do have to sometimes make decisions like that. Yeah. Can we get her the mic? Right here.
I'm sorry.
But no one, don't become like a recluse now and say like, oh, I'm not going to hang out with people because this guy, he had a beard and Phoenix and he said this thing and I'm not going to hang out with him. No. You need to be part of the community, you need to have social engagement. But there can be trade-offs sometimes where you might have to say, this type I'm going to be careful with. Totally,
Mr. Yamin, thank you so much for all your knowledge. It's been very insightful. My question is, you mentioned some of the habits that you built are derived from Rasulullah's examples, like, for example, zikr after prayers, and then bringing blessings to your sujood every time you pray. I just want to know, what other habits have you incorporated in your life that has really boosted and helped you invest in your iman, that has become your day-to-day life that we can implement in our life also? That's all. Thank you.
My teacher, he always says, hide yourself behind the Prophet. And so, never talk about yourself, talk about the Prophet. So, respectfully, I won't say, except for maybe walking. I like to walk. And the way I work that is just, I work at a coffee shop and instead of driving there, I walk there. maybe something like that. But I'd rather talk about the Prophet. So, and we can just look at his life, and like again, the things I said about love, how the Prophet his favorite time was to wake up in the last third of the night and to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he used to fold his bedding twice. So he would take the bedding and fold it twice. And that's how he would normally sleep. And it was comfortable enough to sleep, but it wasn't too comfortable. And he used to wake up at a certain time. One day his wife Hafsa, she folded it 4 times. She made it more comfortable. When the Prophet came home, he didn't notice, so he fell asleep. Next day he asked her, he said, did you do something with the bed? He's like, yeah, I folded it extra to make it more comfortable, so I put some extra bedding. He said, can you make it the way it used to be? Because I woke up late and I missed time with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And look how he's guarding his time with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He wasn't mad at her, he just said, please, it can't be too comfortable, right? Because then I'll just sleep there. So, look at the Prophet Muhammad said he didn't do anything without this love of Allah in his heart. Right? And he guarded it. Like if you think that, okay, this relationship I have with Allah is the most important thing, and this other thing in my life might compromise that, I have to be careful with this. Because I care way too much about Allah to even risk being disconnected. So this is, an example. Sorry I couldn't answer your question directly. You had a question too?
So as a Muslim, obviously I want my friends to also love Islam as well. And so I always want to encourage them to be improving their Islam in like small steps like we've been saying. And you were saying that the key to doing that is making yourself love Islam, the Allah and the Prophet ﷺ. So I was wondering if you had any tips on how to feed that love or nurture that love in people we care about.
It's a good question. I think that when the first step is that when you really do love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet they'll be able to feel it. Right? So when you say Allah, it's a little different than when other people say Allah. When you say the Prophet it's a little different than when you talk to the Prophet. But number 2, it's to keep things comfortable. To keep things comfortable. And to talk to them, like look at how the Prophet was. Why did the companions love the Prophet? Because he used to just hang out with them. And they would talk about their lives. And when something funny came up, he laughed. And he laughed so much sometimes that you can see his molar teeth, like his back teeth. When people used to come to the Prophet's masjid, they couldn't tell who the Prophet was. You guys know when the Prophet came to Medina, it was him and Abu Bakr. Everyone jumped on Abu Bakr thinking that Abu Bakr was the Prophet. Right? They didn't even know it was the Prophet. They jumped on Abu Bakr, there's like these little girls from Medina jumping on Abu Bakr. They're like, no, that's the Prophet. They're like, oh! They're jumping on, now they go into the Prophet. If you didn't talk to him directly or hear him speak directly, you just walk into a room. With that, I'm not trying to say anything disrespectful to the Prophet. He's the greatest of creation. But he was so humble, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that in a sense he was just hanging out with his friends. And so humble, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He didn't let people walk behind him. He didn't like to have an entourage. He said, leave my back to the angels. Because he doesn't like this idea of having an entourage behind him, following him everywhere he goes. So with our friends, be with them. When they talk about their life, you listen and you laugh, you show concern, all these different types of things. But when you practice Islam and you're a good friend, wallahi, you are like 1 in 1,000 of the person who's there and their friend, but also is holding on to the deen in a strong way. And they won't forget that. You know, I have one of my sisters, one of her friends at one point, she used to wear hijab. She always wore hijab, sorry. Her friend always wore hijab from the time that she became an adult, but at one point she started kind of faltering a bit in her hijab. You know, like she wasn't wearing it the way she used to. And my sister never said anything about it. They were like really close friends. She never said anything about it. She treated her the same way. She was nice to her. She showed her she loved her, whatever. She never brought it up. And years later, her friend wrote this whole long Facebook post about how amazing of a friend my sister was to her. Because she said, I know that she knew that I was kind of messing up with my hijab. But she didn't say anything. And she still loved me. She still treated me the exact same way with the same level of care. And that told me at some level that this person cares for me irrespective of what I do. And she went back to being good in her hijab and stuff like that. So I think just being with them, being friends with them. And then when something a little bit haram comes up or something inappropriate comes up, you find ways to kind of, work around that. So for example, someone starts talking about haram stuff, maybe you just, you wait a second and you say, oh, I have a call, you take a call, you go outside, take a call, and then you come back, hopefully you're talking about something else. But don't cut yourself off from people in your life because, oh, I'm religious now. No. You should still have a connection to people, the people in your life. Maybe you now have new connections to more religious people that are helping you grow, but you might be the person who's helping those other people grow. But you're not going to do that by just being, guys, did you hear? Allah Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, right? Did you hear this verse of the Quran? Most people are like, dude, just chill. Let us breathe. Let it breathe. That's how most people are nowadays, right? So be with them. Just be with them. Honestly, just be with them. Work on yourself. Be with them and show that you love them and you care for them. They know you're more religious than them. They know that you're more practicing. And that's going to tell them, wow, look at this religious Muslim who's like this, with beautiful character. Right? And one day, something will happen in their life. They'll get older, their brain will fully develop, and they'll realize, this dunya thing sucks. It's terrible. Oh my God, what am I wasting my time with? I remember that my friend was like, she's a good person, and she's close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they go talk. It happens all the time. Wallahi, I have friends, because I used to be this person when I was a kid. I was like really I thought I was better than everyone. I'm religious and they're all wrong. And then I kind of eased up. And I have friends, by Allah, that were you would think the furthest people from deen. Give it 10 years, they're better than all of us. Wallahi, they're better than all of us. You just don't write anyone off. Don't cut anyone off. You don't know what Allah is going to do with that person. And when they come to Islam, sometimes they come to Islam with so much wisdom from all the mistakes they made in the past that they can now lead and guide dozens of people to be closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You don't know, but what should you do? Keep that connection with that person. So when they want to turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they might come to you as a resource. So this is Allah ta'ala. It's kind of a hands-off approach. That's the way I deal with it. And inshallah ta'ala, through your akhlaq and through your character, it will impact them. But play the long game. Play the long game. And don't think that people are going to switch just because you switched recently. Right? Allah ta'ala, Allah knows best. I may be wrong.
There's nobody else. I want one more. When talking about investment and building habit, is there anything that kind of, age related? Is there any different when you are 20s, when you are 30s, when 50s, or something like that?
Do you have an idea?
Not really.
Is it different to invest when you're 20, 30, 40, 50?
Yeah.
It's harder when you're old.
It's harder when you're old to change? Yeah.
You forget a lot.
I mean, when we talk investment, you should do more when you are at the later age.
No, so we invest for the akhirah.
Yeah.
So regardless if we're 20 or 60, we're investing for that. And the return, you might get some return in this world. You get you get dividends sometimes. You get a little, but so you can just reinvest the dividends. The real return comes in the akhirah, right? So I would say it doesn't make a difference in that sense. But in terms of building habits, if we're talking about building the habits, it's easier to build habits when you're younger. It is. Before you get a lot of responsibilities. Like if you guys are not married, oh my god, you get so much done. It's crazy how much you get done. And if you don't have kids, you're married, you don't have kids, like me right now, I have inshallah one coming soon. Like I know that in about a couple months my life is going to be upended, right? I know that. It's going to be changed completely. If you don't have these huge responsibilities, you have a massive opportunity that Allah is just putting right in front of you. And the people that take advantage of the opportunity are few. They're few. But those who do, yeah, the things Allah will do with those types of people, subhanAllah, is so much. So take advantage. As the Prophet ﷺ said, تَعَرَفُ إِلَى اللَّهِ فِي الرَّخَاءِ يَعْرِفْكَ فِي الشِّدَّةِ. Get to know Allah in easy times, right? I.e., when you're free, when it's easy to worship Allah, when it's easy to build these habits, and He will know you in the hard times. I sometimes like to make a joke about how I sometimes think about this, which is, get to know Allah when you're single, and then Allah will know you when you're married. Not because marriage is bad, but marriage is work, right? Marriage is work. It's a type of shiddah. There's difficulty in marriage. It's a beautiful difficulty, because your face, your ego is challenged, right? In marriage. Allah will know you, right? Wallahi, I found this to be true. The more you invest before marriage, you'll find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will know you in marriage. Alhamdulillah ta'ala. There was something else I was going to say, but I looked at you earlier before he said it, and I had something I wanted to say, and then I forgot. Alhamdulillah. Maybe it wasn't meant to be. How much time do we have? Are we over time?
Still have 10 more minutes.
We have 10. Wow. They're like, this guy took way too little time with the talk. Any other questions? I see I have 2 hands. Okay. Should we just keep going? Yeah, this one.
What are some habits that we can build with our families, be it our parents, siblings, or children, that we can help to invest in our akhirah together? Jazakallah.
Have the kids do the post-salah dhikr. Have them read it. Every day, read a story of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. One of the best resources is that I like to use. It's called. It's published by Imam Ghazali Institute, and it's called the Study Book of the Shama'il. It's a red book. I love it. I would say every day with your kids, go in there, find a story, and just tell them the story, and make that like a time. Maybe they can even start reading if they're old enough. They can read and stuff like that. Have them read it. And these small things, like really, really small things. Post salah, and keep it light with the kids. Don't make it like a burden. I'll say like when I was a kid, we used to drive an hour to go to Saturday school from Northwest Indiana to Chicago. It was an hour and 15 minutes. So I only had one day off. Most people like that, right? They have one day off in a week. And I remember my mom used to tell stories on the way. Every time, just stories of the Prophet, of the other prophets, of the companions, whatever it was. Dude, it's so nice. And that was my iman. My iman is my mom's stories. That's how I love Islam. Or these like formative stories. And like I went to Saturday school, was nice. Like I learned like what Dhamma and Fatana Kasalas and what's before and so Mashgul and stuff like that. But it's really the knowledge was my mom gave me. So, and it was just once a week. And it's not like she did the whole hour, 15 minutes. That would be crazy. It was maybe 10, 15 minutes, and that was it. So small habits like that, stories, adhkar together, taking to the masjid as much as possible, and make it fun. Make it fun. And anything of it is, with kids, it says anything is like Islamic, like going for a walk, going to the park, and mention something. And the strong believer, don't are strong in their faith, but also strong in their ibadah, is better and more beloved to Allah than the weak believer. And there's good in both. Find these opportunities to bring the sunnah in. But those are the two ones I mentioned. Dhikr, and like a story of the Prophet. And take it to the masjid, like how far do you live from the masjid?
6 minutes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so at least like 3-4 times a week, they should be going to the masjid, right? And like, it's like a home. Do they have a basketball court there?
It's my nephew, he's 3, so he can't play
No, but do they have a basketball court in the masjid?
They have a parking lot, so
Yeah.
I can do it.
Those are my favorite masajids. Close is a basketball court. They have so many youth there. So my masjid in Indiana, the reason it's one of the very successful masjid, it's because of the basketball court. I'm not even joking. You have people taking shahadas on the basketball court. Wallahi. It's such a big thing. So, yeah, Allah. Was there another? I think I saw another hand as well there. I think maybe behind you.
Assalamualaikum Ustaz. How do you, I feel like when I was living in Indonesia, most of the people are Muslim, so it's easier living there, you do your prayer and stuff, keep your iman. But then when I'm living here, things that you think is like not halal or wrong, people around you do it. How do you maintain like your faith so it's still wrong? Sometimes I feel like, it's people do it, I know that I'm not doing it, it's wrong, but I feel like it's less wrong, I don't know. But yeah, how do you maintain it?
So yeah, it's like it's becoming normal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is the thing, it's like you have to maintain the hatred of these things, right? Not the people, but the hatred of the action, you have to maintain that. So a good thing to do is to actually verbalize it, not to them, but like talk to Allah, like, Ya Allah, I don't like this. Like, Ya Allah, be my witness that I don't like this. And when you say that, it's stronger than just thinking in your head. You keep saying that every single time you see something like that, it won't normalize it. So this is one thing, easy thing to do, right? And to just like express this to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Secondarily, obviously, like if it's something at work or school that's unavoidable, okay, but that means I have to find a good group of people that I'm spending more time with than I am with these types of environments, right? You can't have that environment be the norm. That's why a lot of Muslim youth struggle in America. Right? They go to school for 8 hours, they go to public school like me. And it's, unless you have a strong personality, it's hard to not fall into the haram. Like, Allah blessed me with not caring about people's opinion as a kid. Like, I used to not care. I used to debate people about Islam being true in 4th grade. Right? And like, you're all wrong! And I'm the only Muslim kid in the whole thing. You're all wrong! And they're just like, who is this kid? And the only non-white kid, non-Christian kid. And I was like, I'm not saying that's good. As a kid, I perceived very clearly as a kid, everyone's against me, so like, I gotta carry this thing strong. That's how I was, that was my personality. But not everyone can be like that, so what do? You have to get your group. You gotta get your close friends that are people that are on your wavelength and that are growing towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So yeah, those are my 2 tips. Verbalize that you don't like it and make sure you're spending more time with other people. Yeah, totally.
What do you say to the argument that hidayah comes from Allah? And some say that, well, I haven't received the hidayah. So. And I have a second question about your courses that to do dawah, or can you talk more about that?
Very good question. So the first one is if someone says, well, hidayah is from Allah and I haven't gotten it, so is it really harmful? Right? It's also true that Allah is the one who makes me feel full, right? And I'm hungry. I could eat the food right in front of me, but really it's Allah who does it, so I'm not going to eat the food. That's the same thing, right? It's not just that hidayah is from Allah. Hidayah is from Allah. Satiety, not feeling hunger is from Allah. Every blessing is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we still take things. Because when we look, okay, how does Allah normally create? if I want to feel full, then Allah has shown me that when I eat, He'll create fullness in my stomach. And when I drink water, I'll feel it quenching my thirst, right? And when I take the medicine, I feel the cure. And when I seek the evidence for the truth of Islam, I see that Islam is true. So we have to take the means, because this is the way, this is the sunnah of Allah, how Allah operates. And this is how Allah always operates. وَلَنْ تَجِدَ لِسُنَّةِ اللَّهِ تَبْدِيلًا وَلَنْ تَجِدَ لِسُنَّةِ اللَّهِ تَحْوِيلًا. You will not find for the way that Allah normally operates, His sunnah, any replacement or any moving away from it. Allah is consistent. The only exception are the miracles that He sometimes brings. But Allah doesn't, the miracles are an exception. The rule is Allah creates in a regular way. If I'm hungry, I eat. If I'm not guided, I seek guidance. And those who seek, Allah mentions in the hadith, whoever seeks my guidance, I will guide them. So this is the kind of answer to that. As for this, what is this course? Is it da'wah? Is it not? It's a beautiful question, because this course is actually for every Muslim. The content in it, it's not so that I learn it and I go on the street and debate people. It's actually for me. It's the knowledge of Iman, so that I see things properly. And I'll say this, I grew up with no doubts about Islam. But when I took this course, I realized that yes, I knew Islam was true, but I didn't realize how true it was, how deep it was, how profound it was, how transformative it can be in my life, until I took this course, to be honest. So I would say it is not just da'wah, it's for me and you. And if we can internalize it, then we can do da'wah better. Then we can do da'wah better. But it's not a da'wah manual, it's more for me and you to learn. So very good question. Now I think we're done, right? Barakallahu feekum. Inshallah, if you have anything, I can talk to you after, inshallah. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Inshallah, if you want to close this off.
Alright, Jazakallah khairan everyone. Thank you so much for taking your time to join us. And thank you, Ustad, for taking your time and knowledge and answering our question during this lecture. I hope we all can take benefits from this lecture and apply all the things we learned to our everyday lives. And to summarize, Ustad mentioned to build our faith and center our faith around love with Allah by attaining knowledge of Allah and His Messenger, and also keeping consistent with our salah. And follow our habits, make habits based on what the Prophet ﷺ have done, and some tips by doing it, like how in a book called Atomic Habits, by attaching your habits on other habits you already have, making it at a particular time, or attaching it to a person you want to be. And thank you again all. I'm going to just close with Aslan and closing dua. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wal 'asr innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa 'amilus solihati wa tawassaw bil haqqi wa tawassaw bis sabr. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi